All right, today we're doing something a little different. Instead of an article or a study, we're diving into a story told entirely through poetry. We're going on a journey right into the heart of the Indian Himalayas with the poet Himanshu Vishwakarma as our guide. It's a powerful story about life, about what happens when that life is lost, and about a certain kind of resilience that you might not expect. So let's jump right in. The whole story kicks off with this incredible image. The Himalayas, right? They're not just a bunch of peaks. The poem sees them as this great protector, standing tall and basically holding on to everyone's share of love, keeping it safe. This one idea that the mountain is this big, benevolent force is pretty much the foundation for everything that follows. Okay, so our first section is all about this idea of the mountain's embrace. We're looking at it not just as scenery, but as this living, generous provider, the very source of life in the valley, giving everyone just what they need to get by. You'll notice the poem creates this beautiful rhythm, this pattern of giving, and it starts right at the heart of the home. For the mother, the Ija, the mountain gives four-season grass. And that's not just grass, right? That's food for the cattle, which means it's sustenance for the entire family. And that rhythm just keeps going. Next up, for the father, the bozio, and the men, it's baskets just packed with fish. You can almost feel this really personal, direct connection they have with the mountain. It's not abstract, it's what puts food on the table. And it's not just about one person or one family. The mountain's embrace, as you can see here, extends to the entire community. This is so much more than just survival. It's about a complete life. The mountain gives water for the fields, land for the crops, even melodies for their flutes. And for the kids, the simple but absolutely profound gift of 2 meals a day cooked on a fire. All right, so we've set this beautiful scene, but now the story pivots. We're moving from this idyllic landscape to the complex and sometimes really harsh human stories playing out within it. Specifically, we're going to focus on the women of the valley, whose lives are just so deeply woven into this world. So the poems introduce us to these figures called the Von Kanyeyen, the forest maidens. I mean, think about that name. They're literally nurtured by the forest. They know it inside and out. But that connection to nature is a double-edged sword. It's also where they pour out their sorrows, singing sad songs to their sheep. So right away, you see their story is one of deep belonging, but also real hardship. And their journey? Wow, it's just this brutal cycle. As you can see, they grow up in the freedom of the forest, but then they're sold. Sold to the plains, to the cities, to pay off a father's debt. The poem calls where they end up concrete boxes. I mean, can you imagine a starker contrast to their mountain home? But here's the key thing. Their spirit, that deep knowledge of how to survive, it doesn't break. They fight. And they eventually come back. So it's a story of exploitation for sure, but it's also a story of absolutely incredible resilience. This is a really fascinating contrast the poem draws. It's about different kinds of knowledge, different kinds of survival. In the mountains, survival is this deep, natural wisdom. You learn that to get away from a bear, you run downhill. Simple, right? But in the plains, the predator is human. The ground is level, and as the poem puts it, the method of survival is just as level, meaning it's direct, it's brutal, and there's nowhere to hide. And, the fight for these women isn't just against outside forces. It's also internal, within their own communities. When a daughter decides to choose her own path, to follow her own heart, well, it's not celebrated as strength. It's immediately slammed as rebellion, something self-destructive and immoral. So they're also fighting against these incredibly rigid social rules. Okay, now the poem zooms in, focusing on one specific place, the Ramaniya Chati. It translates to something like a beautiful, sacred settlement. And this next part is really a memory piece, a look back at what this place used to be, and what's been lost. The picture the poem paints is crystal clear. Before the capitalists, before the property dealers showed up, this place was defined by its people. It wasn't a product to be sold, it was a living, breathing community. It was a home. And the way the poem brings this community to life is through what's called kisagoi, basically fireside storytelling. You get these little personal snapshots of everyone's lives. You hear about the son who joined the army, the daughter who's still a student, the guy who's a chef all the way over in Germany, the brother opening a hotel right there in the valley, and even the old woman with her aching pains. See, these aren't just random facts. They're the threads that weave together this vibrant, deeply connected community. So what's the takeaway here? What did it all add up to? In those days, the evenings spent by the sacred riverbanks would dissolve into Simply love and rest. That's the feeling, love and rest. I want you to really hold on to that feeling because everything is about to get turned completely upside down. Because in just 3 years, everything changed. This next section is all about that unraveling, how that entire world of love and rest just disappeared. The valley was for sale. And this, right here, this is the heart of the tragedy. It's just this brutal side-by-side comparison. Those evenings of love and rest, gone, replaced by tons of garbage. The fireside storytelling, drowned out by the constant grinding noise of helicopters. And that living community, it's become nothing more than a chaotic marketplace filled with endless haggling. The poem describes this new reality as a total assault on the senses. You're meant to imagine filthy alleys, a smell that's just everywhere, and a system the poet literally calls uncivilized. Just this chaotic mess that's been forced onto this sacred place. And what about the local economy? Well, it's been totally gutted. Local drivers are forced to give up their jobs to outsiders. The work is outsourced. And the very things that gave them life, the natural resources, are now just items for sale. Every river, every forest has a price tag. And the speed, the sheer speed of this destruction is what's so shocking. Just 3 years. A way of life that was built over generations, with all its deep roots and rhythms, was wiped off the map in 36 months. It's staggering. And so the result is this deep, creeping sense of loss. The poem says, slowly, slowly the way of life is ending in the mountains. It uses the word rahawas, which is more than just a habitat. It's the whole way of life, the whole way of being. And that is what's disappearing. So, after all that, in the face of such total devastation, you have to ask, what could possibly be left? And that's exactly where the final poems go, asking this really critical question about what remains when literally everything you know has been sold off. Yeah, think about it. In a world where every single river and every single forest is for sale, what is left to hold on to? What can possibly survive that? Well, the poems do give us an answer. And it's maybe not what you'd expect. It's not some big, grand rebellion. It's a much quieter, deeper kind of resilience. It's a spirit that acts just like nature itself. It just finds a way to endure, no matter what. And this final image, I think, says it all. This spirit that endures, it's like the humble grass or a wildflower. It can freeze over in the winter, and then it blooms again. It finds life in the tiniest cracks, on the threshold of a door or on an old courtyard wall. And it leaves us with this really powerful, maybe even challenging idea that sometimes the greatest act of resistance isn't a loud rebellion at all. Maybe it's just the quiet, stubborn insistence of life to keep going, to find a way to bloom, even in the ruins.